and welcome back to the Fremont Area Art Association. We have another virtual event for you, a virtual art class, and Katie Petersen will be, hi everybody. I don't know if it just started again. Anyway, it's live, so anything goes. If you're just joining us, Katie Petersen is here. She's going to lead us in a virtual art class today. It's a three-part series focusing on still lifes, and today she'll let you know what we're focusing on, and I hope you enjoy. Leave your comments. I will be kind of interacting with her throughout and sharing some of those comments, so enjoy. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting me come back today. So today we're not going to be doing much painting. We're actually going to be talking more about composition and setup of your painting. So, and again, this is going to work like a lot like the last show that we did, where you can ask questions and Angela can read them off to me and I can answer your questions as soon as possible. So first we're going to start off actually with some art history and learning about composition. So I want to introduce you to this artist named Hilma Klimt, and she is an abstract painter. And you might be thinking, wait, we're doing still lives today, but no. So abstract painters, abstract artists are actually the masters, or in my opinion, the masters of composition. And there's so much you could really learn about composition, and you could probably do a three-part class just on composition, but we're going to do a really quick run through of what composition is. So like in this painting that she did, you know, it's right in the center of the picture frame. You know, usually when we have the subject in the center and it's very symmetrical, it usually gives us a sense of stableness and sturdiness. But with this one, you know, most of our subject and our focal point is on this side of the picture, but we have like these little lines leading our eye to the circles and the ovals that she has put into her paintings. But us as doing naturalistic and still lifes, we can still take this, what we have learned from Hilma, and just a little back story on her. So she's actually a painter from the early 20th century. She started showing her work in 1908, about 10 years actually before Kandinsky began showing his abstract work. I learned that last night, and I have to say she's a personal favorite of mine. Just beautiful work, and she mixes a lot of science but spirituality. You know, this was a time where Darwin was making new scientific discoveries, and people was so very deeply religious. So people were trying to find, you know, where does their spirituality fit into these new scientific discoveries. So I think that's really great. So transferring over to our still life composition, this is the still life that I'm going to be using. It's pretty simple, just so I can keep up with you guys. But you know, it's pretty much right in the center. It's very sturdy. You know, it's very. But we do still have some lines. The lines and the folds of my composition lead us right to the line right here, and that's going to act as my focal point, because that is kind of the one piece that sticks out, you know, amongst these orangish lines, or orangey lemons and oranges, and this blue is just this bright green line. So we're going to use that. And usually before I start drawing on my canvas, I want to make sketches. So this was the first sketch that I did of my composition. And what I did, you know, I did a really nice loose sketch. I did it first with pencil, but I actually went back in with charcoal, and I colored in where my darkest parts of my painting will be, and where my light, just really breaking it down into black and white. This kind of gives me a sense of, like, is there a balance to the painting? You know, I kind of want it to be half and half of darks and lights, you know, give it good contrast. But then my second drawing that I did was actually when I discovered, you know, can I use the folds in my composition to lead me to where the line would be. And what I did is I actually extended the folds of the lines. I extended the lines of like the teacup, and we actually have this orange right here that is pointing up to the line to just, it really brings the eye right to where our focal point is, and which is what I want.
Can you show us the diagonal line on the image, the actual
Yes.
photo? Like how you came up with that?
Yeah, so, and here, so this orange right here is actually leading us up to the line. I don't know if you guys can see that. We'll get a little bit closer, but I have these diagonal lines that are leading us to the line, and kind of to this orange still a little bit, but mainly it's centered around here. So that's what I'm looking for. So it has a focus, you know, it's not all spread out, and it's more organized for this still life. So now that I have my sketches and my drawing done, I'm actually going to start drawing on my canvas now. So usually when you're drawing on your canvas, you're not going to do any shading. You just really want a simple line drawing. You want to know what's going on. You know, if you're new painters, you know, you can draw in your shadows if you want to, and I'll show you that later. But you know, sometimes more experienced painters, you know, they just need line work, or they just draw with their paint, which works either way. Me personally, I usually like drawing on my canvas with a pencil, just in case I do mess up, I can erase it. But for today, we're going to be using a grease pencil. It's a little bit darker, and it's a little bit darker, so hopefully you guys can on the video can see this.
Does a grease pencil erase the same way?
No, actually, it's kind of hard to erase with a grease pencil. Like you can't really.
You could paint over it.
Yeah, you know, and again, the drawing, it's important. It's important for you to know your proportions and what's going on, but it doesn't need to be perfect. You know, it's okay if you have a few stray lines, and you'll actually see that when I'm drawing. I'm going to use, you know, my lemons, or my lemon and my oranges. You know, I might draw a line across, you know, just so I have a reference point. And we'll see that, you know, so I guess this is more of like a drawing class today, so that's kind of fun. So
for anyone that's just tuning in, I see people are kind of trickling in. So leave your comments if you have any questions for Katie, and I'm on the lookout, so I will get the questions to her during this live filming. And also, if you're wondering, we've got two computers going. We're kind of filming twice, so if you see her kind of looking away, that's probably the other one. We're going to film it and post it on YouTube as well.
all right, so we're going to get started. So pretty much very similar to drawing is very similar to painting. We're going to start big and get smaller. So what I'm going to do is, what I'm really going to do, I'm going to block out kind of where my orange will be. And actually, so this is a trick that, you know, I've learned from my professors, is that it's easier to draw circular shapes if you actually draw them with more of a geometric design, you know, with diagonals. And then let's just see, kind of block it in, you know, because I feel like squares are a lot easier to draw than circles. And then our plate would be around here. You know, and I'm doing it really loose. What really helps me keep my drawing nice and loose and light is actually holding my pencil like this instead of like this. You want to hold your pencil like this because you're writing, and you know you want that nice dark line. But with this, you know, right at this point we just want it to be nice and light. So what works best is actually if you lay it on a table and then just pick it up like this. So, keeping it nice and light, when I'm going over, I'm not just drawing one line and hoping it's perfect. I'm kind of more just finding the edge, and I'm continuing the ellipsis. So we don't have kind of like, have you ever drawn like a circle or an oval or an ellipsis and it just, the lines would not connect if you extended them? Drawing lightly really, really solves that problem. So you have cup. It's more over here.
For anyone interested, we've shared on Facebook several different image ideas of still lifes that Katie set up and took photos of.
Yeah, so I sent you some photos, and you can use mine if you want to follow along exactly, or you can choose one of your own that might be a little bit more, like if you think you find more interest in that. I kind of want people to have like a freedom, You don't want everything to be all the same. But I know that does help with, if it is more of a step-by-step for a lot of people, especially new painters. So then the handle will be right around here. Lemon right here. Kind of a line, a little bit of an intersection with the line. And there's lots of different ways to transfer your subject onto your canvas. Like right now I'm just kind of free drawing it on the canvas. But I've used a projector to project my image. I've used a grid, and all those work pretty well. Kind of using, and I'm drawing this little fold right here. And I'm going actually through the lemons just to make sure that it would all connect. And so it all makes sense to our eye.
Your friend Trajan? Is it
Yep, Trajan. Mm-hmm.
Trajan is with us and says you're doing great.
Thank you.
So I see in this image that you've chosen, there's a little bit of the wall and like an outlet kind of in the photo. How do you resolve that? Are you going to include it in the still life?
So
or mask
I
it?
actually don't think so. I think it's kind of messy, and I think it detracts from my still life. So I'm actually going to just put a nice kind of this grayish color right over it. I'm going to take some artistic license. That's one of the nice things is that you can do that. If you think this orange right here is really ugly, you don't have to put an orange in there. I would encourage you to draw what's in the picture, or if you're drawing from life, to draw what you see. But in this case, it's in the background. It's not really adding to our still life, so there's really no reason to put it in there. And kind of with choosing subjects, I think the best way to learn how to draw and how to paint is really painting from life. When you're first starting out, there's nothing like really having a live still life. But for these cases, I had to choose pictures. But if you ever get the opportunity, or maybe you're at home and you want to set up your own still life, that's the best way to do it. I personally think. Drawing some of the folds. just so ready to paint, but you know, the painting didn't really turn out that great a lot of the times. Alright, so right now I have our basic shapes mapped out, so I'm actually going to go back over it with my grease pencil and kind of darken it up, start finalizing the choices with the line and the drawing that I've made, and making sure that still everything is correct and accurate. So when I paint, I just have to stay in the lines, or out of the lines, you know, whatever you want to do. And usually, actually, sometimes when I do go back and I will change to more of a writing style, just so I can have a little bit more pressure on the canvas. Keep it a little bit more accurate.
Do you have any suggestions for anyone that maybe is having difficulty getting a shape just the way they want it? At what point do you kind of move on?
So what I do, especially with like kind of these odd oval shapes, you know, again, draw with this. I know it feels awkward at first, but you know, if you can draw from like your shoulder, usually your shoulder you know, there's bigger muscles, and with your shoulder you can get more of a circular movement. It's a lot more smooth. So this one I did kind of like, I did a geometric, you know, I kind of went in and I didn't draw any curves, I just draw lines.
I like that idea of seeing it as lines as opposed to a shape.
Yes.
And I also like that you pointed out the, what did you call that shape? Oval.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because when you think of an orange, you might think round.
Yeah.
Really they're not.
You know, and that's kind of the fun thing with fruit still lives, is that they're all kind of different. You know, we have kind of, they're not quite circles. You know, we have some ovals. Sometimes they have like those little knobs on the lemons, like that would be right around here. But
So at this point too, you're thinking just of the lines basically of the shape, but not necessarily like the depth of.
nope. I might, for teaching purposes, I might draw in a couple of the shadows, but I'm not going to shade them in. I'm just going to, it's only going to be a line drawing. There's going to be no depth, because that's what the paint is for.
You're just tuning into this live video. We've got Katie Petersen. She's walking us through step 1 of a 3-part series in still lifes. And this step 1 includes getting your still life drawing on the canvas. And what was the second part, Katie?
So the second part, I'm going to teach us the grisaille method, and that's when we start adding in the different values of shade and light in our painting. And the third step is finishing the painting, start adding color to it, and I'll get more into that and how color works in the grisaille method. But also we're going to learn how to varnish and how to make our paintings look finished and ready to show people, ready for our shows, ready to hang.
So if you're tuning in, then remember that there's 2 more series coming up as well, or 2 more with classes within the series, I should say.
Let's see. There is kind of a curve to this teacup. So I've always struggled with teacups, I think. You know, they're pretty symmetrical for the most part, but they have like kind of these lips and these little curves, which can be kind of hard, but you know, it's just easiest to just kind of break them down and then connect the corners together. It's kind of like, I don't know if many of you have done this, but in elementary school, you know, you take a piece piece of paper and you just start cutting the corners and eventually you have a circle. It's kind of like that.
Also, for those of you watching, you may be following along, or you may choose just to watch the video. Just know that we will continue to post this. It will be available on our Facebook page. We're also gonna try to put it up on YouTube. So if you want to get the supplies and even try the project at a later date, you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, whatever time you're doing this, I don't know if you can post it to Facebook or maybe Instagram. That'd be really great. I really love to see your guys' work and what you're drawing.
Yeah, for anyone following along with us, please share. You can email the gallery 92west at 92west.org, or just share it on Facebook, however you would like to. We would love to see what you've come up with, or maybe just a few comments on what you've learned.
I'm not putting too much pressure. It's very important to, get your drawing accurate. But if there are little inaccuracies that I have missed, I'm going to come back in here with the paints and go over them. Done. I'm probably going to start pretty soon. I'm going to start going back in and drawing out the lines of where my shadows are. So when I go back in with paint, I can look and be like, okay, like the shadow for this orange, it's kind of this crescent shape. But I'm not going to do any shading because, again, I want this to be clearly defined. It's really, I just want to know what I'm going to be looking at. And sometimes I do these a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll do some of the designs on the cover. They're kind of just where they are on the cover. of just move the little string down and it kind of breaks open the paper and just unravel it. But you can't really sharpen it, but that's okay. Again, for our purposes, we don't really need it to be super sharp. We're doing just kind of a basic drawing. Let me unwrap that.
So in the art supply store, would everybody's pencil be in kind of with the painting supplies?
No, I think you actually would find it in the drawing section. I think when I got these, you can find these, I think you can find them at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Blick, in Omaha. I think I got this one from Michael's, and I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in the drawing section. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen them in the painting section, because they are mostly used for drawing. Actually, when I was working at Applebee's, we actually used these to mark off where the sitting was, where open seating was.
Oh, sure, because you could if it was
Just-
laminated, you could scrub it off then.
Yeah.
We've got Kitty Hoden joining us. Hi, Kitty.
Hello.
She's actually outside in the shade watching your video.
Nice.
Sounds like a great, relaxing way to spend the afternoon.
Absolutely. I hope that this is enjoyable for everyone, over their lunch break, or, just some time to have like a creative outlet. I have a little flower up here, but it's not as important as like my lines and my lines, but I'm gonna put it in there so when I paint it, there's more of just a suggestion of the detail and back here, you kind of get the little curve of the handle in there.
The delicate little.
Yes, I know. So I feel like this is one of the harder shapes to draw. It's almost like half of a little heart.
Oh.
Yeah. Another thing that we can learn from abstract art is that everything is made out of really basic shapes. Everything is made out of circles, squares, ovals, and triangles. If you just keep on telling yourself that, you can draw anything.
Yes, well, and the tip earlier, I'm just going to kind of repeat your tip from earlier that even sometimes if the shapes are difficult to see, then start seeing it as a line
Yes.
of the shape.
Yeah, or kind of boxy and geometric, because I think that at least for me, geometric designs are kind of easier to draw, easier to understand, and then you just kind of just connect the lines and you get a nice flow. Alright, so now we're going to start kind of drawing in the shadows right there. And again, we're not shading it in.
So basically, you're looking for the darker areas and just making a mark here.
Yep. A lot of mark making in the line, I have like this little, I have some light reflecting off of this orange onto this lemon. So I might even draw that in there too. And we have some highlights kind of right in this area. Probably draw that. And this method is used a lot. And I do color pencil too. And I also go in with my pencil with like an HB or a 2H pencil and draw in my light and shadow. So when I go back in there with my color pencil and start adding color, I know exactly where different shadows begin and end.
the eye for seeing those different shadows in the image?
I think you can see them, but I think you just get better. You really just get better at catching those little details, and and that all comes through really just doing it. Is just keep on doing it. Most usually you pick it up pretty quickly.
So if there's anyone out there that thinks they're not catching on, they're not getting it, and they're ready to give up, throw in the towel, what would you tell them?
No. Don't give up. Start with things like objects in your house that are interesting to you. I really liked these. I'm not really much of I don't do a lot of still life in my personal work, but I still find these objects really interesting. Like it's my grandma's old china, and then some oranges for my lunch. I have some really nice fabric. The blues give me interest. I hear a lot of people, they think that still life it's boring. But no, not if you choose objects that interest you and are fun to draw to you. But it really still lives, and especially live still lives, setting it up on your table and just sitting down and just drawing what you see is probably the best advice and best practice you can do for painters, drawers, really anyone who is art. I always, it's just good to practice. Like sometimes, I'll just do a still life or just draw something that I see in my little sketchbook that I carry around with me in my purse, just for practice, or just because I think it's interesting, or maybe I can use it as an idea for something else. I'm actually in a printmaking class right now for Fort Hayes for my master's, and it's a non-traditional printmaking class, and we're doing this method of pochoir, and I'm trying to get rubbings from different textures like buildings and stuff, so then I can kind of take a Sharpie and black out the dark spaces, maybe cut those out. So that's been pretty fun. I really enjoyed my printmaking class.
That would be interesting, scavenger hunt around the different
Yeah, printmaking is fun. Right now we're doing these jelly plates. It's very similar to a monotype, but instead of a plexiglass plate where you would paint or add stuff to it, we're using gelatin, like Jello, like non-flavored Jello, and I have it in a cookie dish, like a cookie sheet in my refrigerator, and I'm gonna use that. I guess we're gonna paint over that and add things to it and print, and lay paper down and rub it with a spoon or like a burin and print with that. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah.
So if anyone is interested in setting up their own still life at home, if they have a couple of objects that they are really enjoying and they want to give that a shot, as far as lighting, what would they want to consider?
So to make things really interesting, I really like really dramatic lighting. I like some really dark, but in this really bright lights. So usually for the still life and for a lot of the still lives that we do in lessons and class, we'll set it up and then we'll turn off all the lights and we'll take these lamps, these spotlight lamps, and we'll just shine it down and we'll kind of move around with them, to see if we can get some really awesome shadows and these really fun highlights, just really make them pop and just really make them interesting and dramatic. It's really amazing what lighting can do for a still life and how dramatic. I have this one still life I'm probably going to bring in next time. It was my first painting for my undergrad, and it was the monochromatic box still life. We just had boxes, and we painted the boxes, and everybody's like, boxes, they're just your cubes and squares, but no, you set them up. We have some diagonal lines, so it's super dramatic. There's a lot of tension in it, but we have these lights to create these really dark shadows and these really bright pink lighting on it. It's pretty neat. Probably a lot of you photographers know that. I think photographers have a really good eye, especially for composition and setting and knowing about light and dark and that balance.
So if someone's setting one up at home, could they use like just the lamps around the house?
Absolutely. Be mindful of what kind of light bulbs you're using, if it's like a warm light or cool light. I usually use a warm light. I think that it feels a little bit more natural. I like the warmer, but if you like cooler lights and that's all you have, that's fine. You'll be fine. And if you really want to, you can use some artistic license to kind of go back in there and make it warmer if you want. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's something you could do. Kind of have some shadows here.
Just a reminder, if you have any questions, comments, you can leave them, and we will get back to you.
I would say probably one of the harder things to learn how to do is to look at a darker color and start kind of finding shapes and line in that. Sometimes that takes some training, but there is some in this painting I see. So I'm going to draw that in there and kind of give us a little bit of a balance. Because we have this really super heavy black fabric right here. But it's balanced out through the intricacy of the oranges and the lemons. On going back to this handle because I don't know, it still just doesn't quite look right to me. I think the belly teacup needs to come down just a little bit more. But though at least it's not super symmetrical. I feel like when you have like a perfectly symmetrical object, I feel like that's really, really hard to freehand draw. I remember I did this last still life and it had a perfectly symmetrical base right in the middle, and it was a little rough. But it actually turned out really good. It's actually one of my favorite paintings probably that I've done. For painting one at least. We're actually just kind of starting to finish up, wind down a little bit. Kind of get the plate a little bit darker. Because we want to make sure the ellipsis makes sense. Though this is really great practice for me because I think I said this before. I like to jump into my paintings, and I don't really like the drawing stage, or like I do, but I'm just really excited for putting paint on the canvas, and this is good practice for me. me to teach me how to slow down and really think about my composition. And composition is kind of one of the things that I personally am trying to work on. Some people I think are just can see, just can see great composition and know when it's a good composition. I'm kind of the opposite. I had to learn, I feel like, how to do it through looking at other people's art and just doing it myself. So it's good to make mistakes because that's how you learn. Because, I've always really wanted to incorporate more abstraction into my paintings, maybe with my figure, but I haven't quite figured out how to do that. But maybe someday, once I get a little bit better at composition, maybe I can start doing that. 'Cause, I am really drawn to Hilma Klimt's paintings. I think they're just spectacular. I did a couple landscape paintings that were kind of based off her work. They're abstract landscape, and there were a couple of them that were good. There was one that was really good, I think. A couple of them, but you know what though? I learned so much from those paintings. I learned so much about color and about composition. So I feel like right now with composition, I do know when it's an interesting composition. I know that there has to be a logic behind it and it makes sense, and that our vocal cords right in here. So I learned quite a bit from that. I think that's why it's good to look at other artists. And I'm really excited to paint the colors for this because we have blue and orange in from our last episode. We know that blue and orange are complementary colors, so it's gonna really pop. Very excited for that. Same one as mine, so
nice.
You can have matching sets.
Right.
Yeah. I've always wanted a painting from my mom. Hi, Mom.
Looking really good, so I can tell.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you're spending on this. This is a very important step, even though, like you said, you're kind of anxious to get the painting finished.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. I know what's going on, and but again, it's also just really important to do some sketches beforehand and to really look at what we're seeing. And also another thing that I feel like a lot of new painters, new artists, new drawers, when they set up when there's a real life still life right in front of them, they're not going from a picture, is that a lot of times we can feel overwhelmed, and a lot of times I feel overwhelmed. So I usually like to have kind of a viewfinder, when you see the artist doing this. That's actually their viewfinding. It kind of breaks it down. So I'm only focusing on this. I'm learning the composition, and but another good way of actually using a viewfinder is actually your phone, is taking pictures with your phone. If you have a real life still life in front of you, I wouldn't use the picture that you took on your phone for your actual drawing, but it can help see where your parameters and of it, just to help you focus, because especially with me, and I feel like a lot of times with landscape, just because it's so big, and it's it stretches it on and on. You know, there's just so much to draw and so much to look at. You know, how do you section it off? How do you choose? It's actually using your phone to kind of see. Or we've actually, in my drawing one class, we actually made viewfinders with plexiglass, and we just would kind of carry it around, and we would have like painter's tape around the edges, so we have a little border, and we would just use that kind of like a camera. But it would help us focus and really think about, you know, the composition of a real, like, in-person still life.
Sure. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
And I think like for instance, what you're drawing from, your whole still life that you set up was much larger. This is
Yes.
just a piece, so you're breaking it down to make it a little bit easier to manage.
I'm trying to think. I want to say it was maybe 40 by 20 inches and maybe 30 inches tall. I had some boxes and I kind of set them up. And yeah, so and I think there's one of the pictures that I sent in is actually this big silver mixing bowl, and it has reflections. I thought that was fun. I like reflections, and I like glass too, but I didn't add any glass this time. But it's a pretty big bowl. It's about this big. So, but yeah, that helps.
So if someone sets one up at home and they kind of think, okay, great, I'm gonna start working on this, and they get a little bit overwhelmed, maybe just pick a portion of that?
Yeah, you can pick a portion. Again, you can use the viewfinder technique that we talked about. You know, and if you're just starting, it's okay to start with just like one orange, one cup. You know, I have so many sketches and drawings of just one orange, one cup still life, because that's important too. It makes you really think, you know, how you're drawing, especially if you're just starting, which is completely fine.
So again, this is part one of a 3-part series of a virtual class with Katie Petersen. We're focusing on still lifes, and today the focus is getting or drawing on the canvas, kind of step one, and then also you called it the greasy method.
The grisaille.
Grisaille method.
I can't remember if that word is French. I think it's Italian. Because actually, when we go to that step, we're going to talk about. I want to bring in some of the medieval and Renaissance triptych altar pieces, because they actually use the grisaille method to paint a lot of those. So we're going to talk about some of those artists. And I don't know, did you guys like art history part? I like art history. I like history in general, and it's really important to know what has come before us and learn from history and to be knowledgeable of that.
Was that part of today's lesson, the grisaille?
No,
That's
that'll be
not-
for next
Okay.
time. Yep. Right now we're just doing the drawing. Yep. We're talking about drawing, composition. Probably the most I personally think that this part is probably one of the most important parts, because this part can either make or break your painting. I think, you know, like, because I've had a couple times where I got into some big trouble because I was doing these portraits, and it was off a little bit, you know, and especially with portraits, you know, if the proportions are not correct in the face is going to look a little bit off, especially in like the nose and mouth area where there's a lot of expression in that part of your face. That's off by, like, you know, a little bit. It can really change your portrait quite a bit. So again, accuracy is very important. And I think I'm done. I think I'm as far as the line drawing is. I don't want to overdo it, because again, this is going to be a painting. This isn't about drawing as much, but it's still important. But it's going to be a painting in the end. So I have it all lined out. It's just line drawing. There's no shading. everything to me looks correct. Probably when I go back and paint, I can kind of fix this a little bit, but I know where that edge is. I know, so when I paint, it'll look good. It'll be great.
So your mom, Mary Petersen, is following along, and she said that you're going to be surprised how it's turning out. So.
I'm so excited when I get home. How exciting.
And again, to anyone that is following along, feel free to share, maybe in the end, but also just the steps, step by step, will be kind of neat to see as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you guys can find a way to post it on Facebook or tag us on Instagram for the gallery, because I'd really love to see all of your guys' work, or if you guys are making work a little bit later after you see the video. I'd really, really love to, and I think a lot of people from the gallery would like to see your work. We could even show, have in progress photos, I think, from class 1, class 2, and then finally class 3, we can have the finished work.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. So that wraps it up for this class then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think this is it for part 1.
Well, thank you for joining us. And Katie, would you like to recap what's coming up in the next 2 sessions?
Yes, so I believe on July 15th at 12:30, we'll be starting our underpainting, the grisaille method, and we're going to use some really basic tones, the black and the white. We're going to get in the value. We're not going to get in the color yet because that's going to be saved for part 3, where we're actually, after our black and white underpainting is dry, we're going to go in with color and just paint over it, and it should just it's kind of magic, I think. It kind of just perfectly because you already did the work, you already have your values, and you just brush it over. And then finishing our paint, I'll probably bring in the portrait that I did in our first episode, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do the borders and how to varnish your piece, and we're going to talk about that. So, yes, well, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Angie, again. I'm just so happy that people were able to join us and that Katie was able to do this. Thank you so much. And so tune in again. We're doing this Wednesdays in July. There's no class July 22nd, but tune in on Wednesdays at 12:30 to 1:30. If you are a member, next month in August is our all members show. So maybe what you're working on could be in the show. We would love to see it. If you're working on anything, feel free to share along the way. We would love to see it. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.